What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for July 3rd, 2023. 320 is incoming fast, and there is a huge test that is going to go on with it. CIG thought it was a really good idea to run Xenothreat, and rest in pieces, Port Olisar. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have quite a bit to go over this week, so let's jump into what's going on with 320. So this is going to be a weird one. We're going to be covering a jump point to talk about what's coming in the next 320 patch. I think that's the first on this channel. Duncan, the head of the Arena Commander feature team, really wanted me to see this update because he knew this little Easter egg was in there that was not really covered on any of the previous updates around what's coming to Arena Commander, and it's Master Modes. We did see it blurred out a little bit on an ISC recently when they talked about it, but we weren't 100% sure if that's what it was. This kind of confirms it, and Master Modes is probably the most anticipated feature in the last 2 to 3 years. Now, what is Master Modes? Master Modes is where there's different modes for combat or basic travel and then quantum travel, right? So there's going to be multiple different modes that you can go into, similar to missile operator mode. Well, you're going to be in a combat mode to be able to use your weapons and shields and so on now. And this is to slow down ship combat to make it more about positional skill and less about just straight DPS, which is what we've had for a very long time. And if you've noticed, all lasers feel the same, all ballistics feel the same, cannons all feel the same, light fighters all feel the same, medium fighters all feel the same, right? So there's a lot of this like generic feeling to Star Citizen right now, and no uniqueness to the ships that you have or the weapons that you're using. The reason for that is they've been waiting for Master Modes in order to iterate on those things. So not only is just the way the ship's flying going to be a huge change, but it allows them to finally make the changes that they've said they've wanted to make for a very long time. We've had so many conversations around this and so much talk and no action. They went and worked on Master Modes. We thought we were going to see it in the PU at some point, and then they just went to Squadron 42 and left it there. And I was very concerned that this was going to come in fully featured, done, almost zero feedback given, and this is the way it is, guys, deal with it. And turns out they're not so bad, and they're actually going to allow us to try it out, gather feedback, improve on it to make Squadron 42 as good as it possibly can be, as well as the PU. And it's sad that we're not going to see it in the PU quite yet, but these are the steps we need to take to get there, and I'm very excited to try it out and learn how this works in Arena Commander. It is what it is, but I think that that's really great. The weird thing is, they didn't really talk about it until this jump point, something that's behind a subscriber paywall. Don't really think that's a good thing. This should have been shared elsewhere, whether it's on Twitter or whatever. I mean, I think there's many things that they could do a lot better. I think their Twitter platform would be really good if they did a little bit more news kind of things about what's going on in the patches and things like that. Stuff like this that's in Jump Point. Something that should be shared with everybody. Could have been shared on their Twitter, could be shared in an ISC, and it's in a Jump Point. Kind of weird, but then enough positive stuff. Let's get to the negatives. Xenothreat. This weekend, they decided to run Xenothreat in the PU again. Now, I have been quoted on my live streams. I might have done it here, but I can't recall that it really felt like they learned their lesson. All right, we can't run these until we do some serious server performances, improvements, and like PES is really stabilized, right? Wrong. They did it again. Why? This ruins the day-to-day player's experience in the PU every single time. They'll never learn, and whoever is in charge of who decides these things is running an absolute clown show. I don't know who it is, but this is a joke at this point. CIG only cares about its payers, not its players, and this shows it yet again. And then for roadmap updates, it's quite light. They start out with adding a card to 320, which is something we saw last week for ISC, which was a new mission called Cover Up. And it's essentially them creating a mission where you're forced to hull strip because everybody was going to the salvage missions and actually salvaging. In my opinion, salvaging is way more of the pulling components off, pulling weapons off, and looting the cargo of a destroyed ship rather than stripping its hull for a little bit of extra credits. That's hull stripping. So now they wanted to make a specific hull stripping mission where if you don't hull strip, you fail. If you do hull strip, you succeed, right? Like, very simple. That was the plan there. It is an unlawful mission for the Ninetales. I hope to see them do some lawful versions of this as well. I do like hull stripping, don't get me wrong, but it's not salvaging. It's just a component of it. And, you know, the combination of all those things coming into one mission would be pretty cool one day, but it just shows, hey, we really wanted to do some hull stripping missions, so here they are. Then we had Arena Commander updates going committed for 320. So it's very simple, just front end, new menu. These are all things we've talked about a lot. Bringing in the PU racetracks alongside some of the old ones. Some new Arena Commander maps like Jericho Station, which is from Xenothreat actually. Winner's Circle atmospheric map that you can train atmospheric flight and combat in. Finally, Echo 11 is now updated for elimination maps, where it really only fit for control before, and Security Post Korea is now ready for both FPS and dogfighting modes. Then we get to the weird one, Ship Trespass, which was just shared with us last week and got a lot of people excited and a lot of people up in arms about how this is going to work and how many weird edge cases there might be. They decided we were right. There's a lot of weird edge cases and they're not going to do it. The only issue that I really have with this is, why did we communicate this like it was ready to go? It's just another example of them just having wires crossed and the timing, and it's just so weird. And it is whatever. Like, for me, they made the right game development and the right for us decision. It's just so hard to look at these guys and be like, wow, I'm a part of this, you know? And it's like, man, they screw up so much, and it's kind of frustrating sometimes. But in the end, I think they did the right thing, so we'll just leave it at that. So video updates, all we had was an Inside Star Citizen this week, which was all about how they're going to and what they're going to replace Port Olisar with. And why did players like Port Olisar so much? This is kind of what they touch on first.
I think that people like it just because it's get in, get out, you know, and there's that kind of feel. There's no transit loops. There's nothing there that basically extends the timeline and the gameplay. And for the most part, it has all the shops the average person needs, you know, armor shop, FPS shop.
So let's not ignore the fact that nostalgia is definitely playing a factor here, but what people did love about it was its simplicity and how easy it was to navigate. Now, we don't have any other stations like this now except for one, Grimhex, which is probably going to fall the exact same fate that this one did. Think how many times they have to fix Grimhex elevators, right? They're going to kill this thing, 100%. So why are they getting rid of Port Olisar in the first place? I just hinted at it, right?
I think the initial implementation of Port Olisar, you know, did everything that we needed it to do, checked all the boxes. But obviously, as the game has evolved and changed over time, like, we needed to adjust it.
Now, I don't think a single player can argue against this, right? There's zero medical, there's no cargo decks, there's no there's nothing that we have at all the other stations that is part of our day-to-day. So what's going to replace Port Olisar? Well, it's Seraphim Station, and they basically kept it looking like PO, but also with bringing it up to the current standard of the stations that we are used to having now at the L1s and above landing zones. And then the last change is one that'll be at every station as well.
The whole need for the station was that we're trying to have a focus on and introduce bounty gameplay into each station as much as we can. So each station also has a security dock integrated into it as well. That is going to be where all of the bounty gameplay is going to be happening, and you're going to be directed towards that.
And this is really cool. We saw a hint at this in a sprint report a while back, but this is where we will start and finish bounty hunting. This is not where bounty hunting gameplay will really take place, right? I'm way more interested in how we're going to find and chase and take down bounties rather than where we're going to get paid for doing them, right? And then they share their plans on how they're actually going to do this transition.
We will pay proper homage to it later. And we were trying to find ways to basically send it off. Obviously, I think if we did a new space station and just renamed it Port Alisar, the old Port Alisar that they loved then just goes away completely. But basically, for right now, we need to remove it, and then we'll be putting in Seraphim Station in its place. And then in the future, we'll talk about what we're going to do with Port Alisar.
And that's my only issue with this. It would be wrong to replace it, but we're going to replace it, right? It makes no sense. They're really contradicting themselves here. They're going to take it out, they're going to replace it with Seraphim Station, and then they're going to figure out how they're going to send it off. Kind of weird. Don't really like them doing that. For me personally, the way they sent it off, which was probably fictional or whatever, because we never know what's real on ISC anymore, was the it falling down to the surface of Crusader, and maybe it'll be like a derelict station there or something like that. And I think that that's a totally fine way for me to send it off. My issues here are there is something special about Port Alisar, and the thing that's special about it was its ease and how simplistic it was. Grimhex is the same. I think the player base is telling you that we like these things, so I think it makes sense from the PU team, I guess environment teams, or whoever makes stations to think about that and think about how they're going to supply that kind of need that players have somewhere in the future. I know we said we would never have player-owned stations, but there's your opportunity right there, right? We don't have cargo decks or all these crazy huge things, but we can have much smaller versions that maybe orgs or something can use ourselves. So that's all I really have on Inside Star Citizen, and we didn't have a Star Citizen live, and who knows when we're going to have one again. It's been 2 weeks. They're now going on vacation again for another month for ISC, so video updates are going to be very sparse over the next month, but let's check out other updates because there's quite a bit going on over there. As always, we start out with a sneak peek, and it's Hurston Trees. That's what it looks like to me. Maybe it's another location in Pyro somewhere that you guys are familiar with. Let me know in the comments down below. Basically, all this is saying to me is that environment artists are still making environments. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Citcon tickets are on, or have been on sale, and, well, the VIP ones are gone, right? You can't get VIP ones anymore, and the regular Citcon tickets are still up. In the past, they kind of struggled to sell a lot of the tickets towards the end, if I remember, and this time I think Xylo tweeted something about they've already sold more Citcon tickets than they've ever sold in the past. I mean, their community is 4 years older now, so I imagine there's quite a few more people interested in going and all that stuff, so pretty awesome. Then we had a Galactapedia update, and the first one is about Banu cuisine because we're still kind of going through the Alien Week stuff. And then the side article was the one that I point out. There's many side articles, but the one that I like to point out is about Osoian hides, which is the most valuable commodity that we have in the game right now. And then we had the Banu transmission translation, which we did talk about last week, but this is the official one from CIG, and it's pretty much spot on to what we had last week. It just tells you how to use that trinket that you guys can get at the Bar Citizens. Now, that'll do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. It's going to be a rough go here for the next couple weeks, I think, as far as content goes, and all the way until October. So, as always, make sure you leave a like, do what you can to support, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will catch you guys in next week's Week in Review.